Part 41. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turnover. Author, Bamboo Fensti. Chapter 401. Chapter 401 Willow Yes Troubles. These words may sound like nothing wrong, but when you think about it carefully, it is very problematic. First of all, a tribe took the initiative to propose a marriage in order to survive, and even used an unknown princess to marry them. Is it a marriage or a provocation? Secondly, they knew that the Emperor of Qi was looking for the Suanweiding all over the world. They had the Suanweiding in their hands, but they did not exchange it for the greatest benefit. Instead, they chose to use the thing as a dowry for the princess. People who did not know the truth thought that the princess was in Wei. She is favored by many tribesmen, but she is clearly an abandoned daughter sought out by the people. Zhang Ning paused and asked, "Did the Wei tribe say what they wanted?" Luya hesitated and said, "My daughter-in-law heard from several court ministers that the thing the Wei tribe wants is in the Dragon King temple." Bang! Zhang Ning accidentally knocked over the cup in his hand. What a coincidence! Luya looked solemn. It was such a coincidence, so my daughter-in-law has been uneasy after knowing the news. The Dragon King temple did not publicize it, and only the ministers and some people in Kuzhu prefecture knew about it. The Wei tribe is far away from the customs. It's such an inconspicuous little tribe, how could it throw out the bait so accurately at this time in exchange for the things under the Dragon King's temple? Zhang Ning looked at Luya, who was puzzled, and smiled approvingly. "That's right. You are becoming more and more like a matron of the house now. Have you ever told Datu about these issues?" Luya pursed her lips, nodded slightly, and said modestly, "My daughter-in-law is stupid. She doesn't understand many things. Whenever she can't figure it out, she will discuss it with Datu, but Datu can't explain this matter. It's the end of the year. Bai Weilu was so busy that the emperor even sent eunuch Dekang to visit and asked him to cook some dishes for the palace banquet. His thoughts are now focused on cooking, and occasionally he visits the village and the shop, for fear that the people below will be neglected or enrich their own pockets. Every day I go out before dawn and work until dark before coming back. My daughter-in-law sees how hard it is for him and can't bear to bother him with these things, but I can't figure it out myself. Fortunately, Anayan came over, and my daughter-in-law felt a little more relaxed after telling her these things." Hearing Luya's words, Zhang Ning's heart was filled with 10,000 grass and mud horses galloping past. Luya felt relieved, and now all the pressure was transferred to her. Before Zhang Ning could finish complaining, Luya continued, "One more thing. That day, Prince Xiaoyao came to the house to have a drink with Ditou. His daughter-in-law was waiting beside him. The prince talked about Princess Wei as if the princess had been walking around like a beggar since she was a child. Begging for food, living conditions outside the customs are extremely poor. The beggars there are different from us here, and it is almost difficult to survive. But that day when the princess came to Beijing, she passed by the Beiwei Tower. The carriage she was riding in was only covered by a few thin gauze curtains. When the daughter-in-law looked down from the Beiwei Tower, she could clearly see the princess's forehead, neck, and hands. How should I describe it? That kind of skin can only be cultivated by being pampered since childhood, and the princess's eyes always give people a feeling of déjà vu. Unfortunately, she is wearing a veil, and her daughter-in-law cannot see her face." Zhang Ning felt goosebumps all over his body when he heard this. "Stop it, stop it. Stop talking. I'm so scared. Just tell me, is the princess planning to accept it himself or what?" "That's not true." Luya straightened her spine and sat upright. "What the Wei tribe means is that they worship the god of war and hope to marry the princess to King Ding." Zhang Ning frowned directly. "I have heard that Prince Ding and Princess Ding have a very good relationship, and Princess Ding has just given birth to a son for Prince Ding, so how can she be willing to marry the princess? In the early years, Princess Ding gave birth to a daughter for King Ding. Due to the difficult delivery and severe physical damage, it was difficult to conceive an heir. At that time, King Ding had been fighting in the northwest. The couple got together less and separated more, so no one took this matter seriously. Discuss and decide on the princess. However, the situation changed when Prince Ding returned to Beijing and was crowned king. Princess Ding urgently needed a son to consolidate her status. The couple privately sought out numerous doctors. In the end, Yang Xiahua took action and helped Princess Ding for 5 months before helping her. Successfully conceived and gave birth to a son. With this child, the emperor's original intention of marrying a concubine to King Ding faded away and he never mentioned it again. King Ding even went to the palace early to request an order to make his son the crown prince. No. This brings up another problem. If the Wei tribe wants to make peace, they will definitely inquire about the situation of the Qi royal family and make such a difficult request, but they are not sincere at all. Lu Ye looked meaningful. The imperial edict was issued by the emperor. The crown prince's position cannot be changed. Naturally, the crown prince's mother must be the princess. It is impossible for the emperor to abolish the princess and crown prince for the sake of Princess Wei, and he cannot make Princess Wei his concubine. Things are not good. Manage. Before Zhang Ning could figure it out, Lu Ye dropped another bombshell. People from the Wei tribe live in the inn. They ordered food from various restaurants in the capital, but said that the food at Beiwilo was extremely unpalatable. They came to find fault and said we had a false reputation, and it cost us 5,000 taels to fix the restaurant. That day, she was helping in the kitchen of Beiwilo, when several fierce-looking foreign men suddenly entered the restaurant. They smashed the food boxes on the ground without saying a word. Lan Suivendong pointed at the waiter's nose in front of all the diners in the restaurant and sneered, "This kind of pig food is even delivered to our princess to stain our princess's eyes. You deserve to be damned." Lan Suivenhan said with a stern face, "Your food is not even as good as the wontons on the street. I don't know if these diners are invited by you." The princess is furious. "If Beiwilo doesn't give us an explanation, don't blame us for not being able to do it today. Hello, here comes." The people of the Wei tribe all drew their swords, and the waiter and some diners in the restaurant were affected. Fortunately, the city guard arrived in time and headed towards the Beiwei Tower to suppress the incident. However, their restaurant lost 5,000 taels because of this. Zhang Ning's good mood disappeared in an instant, and he was so angry that he shouted, "That's unreasonable. That's too much. Is this going to end with us losing 5,000 taels?" Lu Ye bit her lips and nodded, unwilling to do so. The emperor has not yet obtained the Suanwu cauldron, and he does not want to offend the Wei tribe. Datu said that it would be best to spend money to solve the problem, and spend money to eliminate the disaster. No matter how unhappy the daughter-in-law is, she can only admit it. Fortunately, the reputation of Beiwei restaurant has been established, and there are many people who like spicy food, so the restaurant business has not been affected. Zhang Ning let out a long sigh. This can be considered a blessing among misfortunes, but what's the problem with them and why are they targeting us alone? Guang'an Haofu is a new upstart in the capital, and Beiwei building has been open for only a few years. Except for the initial quarrel with the Dong family and the Bai family's Angguo government, they have not had any bad relations with anyone else. Moreover, both Yang Datu and Lu Ye pursue the principle of peace. Gui will never take the initiative to cause trouble. Lu Ye shook her head in confusion. "Anyang, this is something that my daughter-in-law can't figure out." At this moment, Zhang Ning finally understood why Lu Ye was so anxious. Anyone who had to deal with so many things and couldn't figure it out had to be anxious. What's more, their family had to deal with powerful people, so there couldn't be any mistakes. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 402. Chapter 402, Conspiracy in front of her. She thought for a while and asked, "Besides saying that our food is delicious, has the Wei tribe said anything about other restaurants? Or praised other restaurants? Lu Ye was stunned, lost in thought, and after a while he excitedly shouted, I thought of it. They once praised an unknown restaurant, Hongfengjai, for its delicious food, and they praised it more than once. Hongfengjai? Where did this come from? Zhang Ning racked his brains and did not expect such a place. Lu Ye looked disgusted. Hongfengjai is located near the fireworks place, and its main diners are promiscuous women and men looking for fun. Who would be a serious person to know about such a place? She wouldn't have known about this small restaurant if she hadn't sent someone to inquire. Zhang Ning sneered twice. People from the Wei tribe compare our Beiwei building with that kind of restaurant. It's obviously a naked humiliation. It seems that we really have a feud between us. Having said that, what does their family have to do with outside forces? Could it be Yang Santi? Thinking of this, Zhang Ning asked, where are the 3 irons? Lu Ye hurriedly replied, he went to Taikang Temple early this morning. He brought Yuan Bao and a few guards with him. He said there was no need to leave food for him. Zhang Ning nodded and asked Lu Ye to go back first. After breakfast, he took the people to Beiwei building. A bite of spicy food is the most comforting in the winter. Even before noon, the restaurant is almost full. With a hot pot and 2 glasses of wine, the cold is not a problem. The restaurant was doing well and there was no room for her to stay, so she went to the theater and ordered some refreshments. As soon as she sat down, a man and a woman came to the table next to her. Brother, you are so useless, it's so embarrassing that an outsider can beat me like this in my grandfather's family. Cheng Jiao gritted her teeth and scolded Cheng Hong. Yesterday, she and her mother were made to kneel until late at night, and almost fell down in the ice and snow. However, her grandfather showed no mercy at all, and actually took the sign and asked his servants to send them back overnight. My mother developed a fever when she returned home and called a doctor overnight. Her whole body hurt and there were bruises all over her body. Only Cheng Hong received 2 punches and nothing happened. Cheng Hong frowned dissatisfied and said impatiently, I'm sick. Did you come out to me just to talk about these things? What attitude? Did I say something wrong? Cheng Jiao glared fiercely and said angrily, if it weren't for the fact that you are my eldest brother, I wouldn't want to care about you. What do you mean? Cheng Hong was almost impatient. Cheng Jiao calmly said coldly, don't you want to marry the princess? I received news that the emperor's request was too excessive because of the Wei tribe. The emperor did not want to comply, but the emperor was determined to win the Suan Wuading, so they will get married, but the marriage partner will be a princess and the Suan Wuading will be used as a betrothal gift. Looking at the entire royal family, there is no other marriageable princess other than Princess Yang, so my mother's desire to have you as Lord Master will most likely not come true. Impossible. Cheng Hong stood up suddenly and reacted very excitedly, Princess Yang is the emperor's favorite princess. How can it be possible for the princess to marry to the bitter cold tribe outside the pass? Cheng Hong only thought what his sister said was ridiculous, and Zhang Ning beside him also felt that Cheng Jiao was talking nonsense. Cheng Jiao sneered, believe it or not, no matter how favored the princess is, how can she compare with the talented Prince Ding? And Princess Wei refuses to find another husband, so the emperor can only use bigger chips to impress them. Cheng Hong's face turned pale and he became anxious. What should I do? I've spread the word that I've been destined to be a consort since I was born. How can I keep my reputation if I'm not a princess yet? Cheng Jiao sneered, what's the rush? I found you just to try to figure something out with you. Do you have any ideas? Cheng Hong's big eye bags twitched twice as he leaned forward. Zhang Ning pricked up her ears. She wanted to know what the other party could do. Cheng Jiao lowered her voice and said, on the day of the palace banquet, all ministers of the 4th rank and above will bring their families to the palace. Marquis Guang'an will definitely bring several of his sons to the palace. When the time comes, we will design young Master Yang to Princess Wei. The eldest brother heroically saved the beauty at the critical moment. He hugged Princess Wei tightly, and I led people to rush over. As long as people see Princess Wei in your arms, she will marry you no matter how unwilling she is. She can also take the opportunity to kill young Master Yang. Maybe she can also bring down the Marquis of Guang'an and avenge her humiliation last night. Cheng Hong was extremely surprised, sometimes happy and sometimes frowning. Your method is certainly good, but how can Princess Wei be compared with Princess Yang? It will not be of any help to our family. Although he is a dandy, he is not stupid. Cheng Jiaojia rolled her eyes and cursed, "You're so stupid." Although Princess Wei is not as good as Princess Yang, her dowry is the Suan Wuading. If you marry Princess Wei, the Suan Wuading will belong to our family. When the time comes, if we present the Suan Wuading to the emperor, our family will have made a great contribution, and maybe the emperor will grant her a title. After all, no matter how bad Princess Wei is, she can't marry into a small family, right? Also, the emperor already has a headache. If you can marry Princess Wei, all the emperor's problems will be solved and you will be relieved of your worries. From now on, you will have a name in front of the emperor, so why worry about your future? At that time, since you have married the princess, our family will still have a title, and my mother will not have to go back to the Kui family to see the expressions of my grandparents. I can still marry well, and I can also help my mother's family in the future. How great! Cheng Hong originally thought that this matter was unreliable. After listening to Chen Jiaojiao's analysis, his eyes became brighter and brighter. Sister Das Han. Okay. I will listen to you. Let's endure it for the next few days and go to my grandfather's house to admit my mistake to that bitch. No matter how low we are, only our grandfather and grandmother can forgive us before the palace banquet can bring us into the palace. Cheng Jiaojiao nodded repeatedly, "You can teach me." The brother and sister talked for a while, and then left after discussing the matter. As soon as they left, Huaji said, "Madam." Zhang Ning waved her hands and continued to listen to the play calmly. She didn't expect that she was so lucky. When she was wandering around today, she ran into these two people plotting to frame her son. She didn't know if they were destined to be together or if they were just against each other. As soon as the play was finished, Zhang Ning walked out of the theater, looked at the snowy sky, and turned his head to look at the flower branches. "Do you think what happened today was too coincidental?" Huaji turned around and happened to see a red silk hanging on the door of the theater. It was a famous actor who was on stage today. He said, "Madam, maybe it's not a coincidence. The theater is very lively today." Zhang Ning raised the corners of his mouth slightly, which was meaningful. "Yes. It's really lively." The two returned to Guanginhou Mansion. Huaji said without any scruples, "Madam, those two people are too vicious. How should we deal with them? We can't let the third young master be plotted by them." "Why are you in a hurry?" "I'm not in a hurry," Zhang Ning said faintly, blowing on the teacup in his hand that was a bit hot, and said, "Since they are willing to share your worries, we can't stop them, but this person needs to be changed." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 403. Chapter 403, Take advantage of each other. Two people with nothing dare to plot and conspire in the palace, so give them the power. She was suddenly looking forward to this good show. To be sure, Zhang Ning told his son and daughter-in-law what he heard. Yang Data was furious. "Auntie, we can't let this matter go easily. If they dare to plot against the third child, I will definitely ruin their reputation." "No rush," Zhang Ning chuckled and said calmly, although they are plotting against us, they are actually sharing the emperor's worries. It would be great if they can really succeed in plotting, but our family cannot be taken advantage of. Lu Ye frowned. Mom, what can you do? Zhang Ning looked at the dark courtyard, listening to the howling northwest wind outside, and said quietly, where is the imperial palace? Not to mention anything else, Lord Wei Guangxian of the Imperial Guard is not a vegetarian. The palace has held palace banquets for so many years. From then on, if nothing goes wrong, why do the two siblings think they can succeed? Even if I didn't hear their plan today, they wouldn't be able to accomplish it. At most, they would just cause a farce and embarrass the Cheng family and the Kui family. But the emperor is really having a headache now because of the choice of Princess Wei's husband. Since someone is rushing to marry her, we naturally can't stop her. Otherwise, how can we share your worries? Anyang, are you planning to facilitate this? Yang Santi raised his eyebrows. Yang Erden said thoughtfully, but our family is just a new rich. To put it harshly, our foundation in the capital may not be as good as some 4th and 3rd grade officials. How can we help? Who said I have to help myself? Zhang Ning sneered, that's the palace. Whoever owns the territory decides. In a blink of an eye, the day of the New Year's Eve palace banquet arrived. Kui Mansion. Tang's illness has just recovered from a long illness. After washing up under the care of the maid and mother-in-law, he asked happily, Master, do you really agree to bring Hong'er and Jiao Jiao into the palace? Mammy was the best at observing her master's face, and immediately agreed flatteringly, no. The young master and cousin are very well behaved during this period of time. Not only do they come to see the master every day for advice, but they also learn the rules from the eldest lady and the eldest aunt, and sincerely admit their mistakes. In order to express the young master's marriage, how could the master refuse? Tang's eyes narrowed with joy. You are right, Hong'er and Jiao Jiao were spoiled by Yudi before, but now they have repented after being punished by their aunt. Hey! If Yueying can, it would be great to have a son, she will definitely teach him well. Seeing Tang's regret, Mammy hurriedly said, Old madam, it's a pity. I've asked about it before. My aunt has taught her daughter extremely well. She is famous even before she reaches her age, and she has a very iconic appearance. Wait. When you get married, your grandson-in-law will dazzle you. Ha ha ha, you are such a narrow-minded person. Mrs. Tang smiled from ear to ear, thinking about the Chinese New Year, and gave her 2 taels of silver to her grandma, and even the maid serving in the house received 1 tael of silver. Mrs. Wang came over after she had packed up. Seeing Mrs. Tang so happy, she hurriedly asked, Mom, have you made all the arrangements here? Tang raised her head and saw that Wang was wearing a set of golden laid jade hair and face sent by Guang'an Marquis, which made her whole person noble and elegant. She nodded secretly, you look really good in this outfit. Wang was happy and said respectfully, Mother, mainly Feng she really likes the set of jade-headed noodles sent by Guang'an Marquis and insists on wearing it. The daughter-in-law thought that it is not good for mother and daughter to be too different. I had to cooperate with her and wear it. Yo, my sister-in-law really cares about her daughter unlike us, who can only pick up what others left behind. Kui Yudi entered the house angrily. She came here dressed up today, but unfortunately he was not a man of high rank, and she had no official mandate. Even if she tried her best, she could only pick and choose within the rules, and even the hair and face she wore could not exceed the rules. Standing next to the Wang family, she has a clear opinion of both high and low, not to mention Cheng Jiaoqiao, who only has a pink gem gold hairpin on her head, which makes Kui Yudi very jealous. Tang frowned in displeasure and glanced at her youngest daughter and granddaughter. Cheng Jiaojiao's heart skipped a beat, and she hurriedly tugged on Kui Yudi's clothes and blessed the Tang family and the Wang family. Jiao, please pay homage to my grandmother, my eldest aunt. My mother-in-law is very outspoken. Jiao apologizes for her. Tang's complexion instantly improved, and she said lovingly, "Grandma knows exactly what kind of temper your grandma is. It would be better if her mouth is mute. She is pure, good child. Don't worry about her. Let's go and go out with grandma. You have to line up and search your body before entering the palace. Since the palace banquet in the evening, ministers and their families have been waiting there." Kui Yuti's complexion turned green and white, and she was so angry that she almost broke her teeth, but when she thought of what her son and daughter said, she had to endure it and follow her. Walking to the door of Kui Mansion, Kui Yuti saw Mrs. Mingson dressed dignifiedly and elegantly. Kui Yuti couldn't stand it anymore and asked loudly, "Why do you follow us into the palace?" Mrs. Mingson looked at her like an idiot. Wang frowned. "Sister-in-law, the eldest sister-in-law is the daughter-in-law of the king of Shunda Township. The Zhu family is still the county official, and they have a concubine." Concubine Shu knew that the eldest sister-in-law was coming to Beijing, so she specially ordered her to enter the palace tonight to attend the palace banquet. "Even if you don't follow your mother's family, you will still have to enter the palace." Kui Yuti was so angry that her face turned red and her neck was thick, and she stamped her feet jealously. "Huh. So what if there are connections in the palace? A man is not a criminal. Kui Yuti. If you don't want to enter the palace, get out of here." Mrs. Tang couldn't bear it and cursed loudly. Kui Yuti was so ashamed and angry that she refused to get into the carriage. "Tang," she looked at Mrs. Mingson apologetically, "she has no way of opening her mouth. I'll deal with her when I get back." Mrs. Mingson nodded, turned around and got into her carriage. She didn't take Kui Yuti seriously at all, and couldn't help but think about what it would be like to see concubine Shu later. The carriage arrived outside the imperial city leisurely. Looking at the palace gate just around the corner, Cheng Jiaojiao was so excited that she clenched her fists. It's almost time. Just wait until night before her plan can be implemented. After tonight, everyone will know about their Cheng family. She will definitely be able to marry Prince Xiaoyao as she wishes. Cheng Jiaojiao blushed when she thought of the man she longed for. In the past, the status of the two was very different, and she only dared to dream about it but not to hope for it. Now that the opportunity is in front of her, she must not miss it. Kui Yuti was shocked by the majesty of the palace. She turned around to talk to Cheng Jiaojiao. Seeing her in a daze, she immediately frowned. "I'm talking to you. What are you thinking about as if you have lost your soul?" Cheng Jiaojiao came back to her senses and said, "Nothing, what do you want to say?" Kui Yuti immediately became interested. "Didn't your eldest aunt just mention concubine Shu?" "I thought of it. With your father's status, it would be too difficult for you to marry Hai. Even if your eldest brother really became the consort, he would be very interested in you. It's not much help, but you can enter the palace. Think about it, the emperor is old, if you can give him a son and a half, the emperor will be happy, and our family will also benefit from it. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over." Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 404. Chapter 404 Concubine Shu. Cheng Jiaojiao's face suddenly turned cold. "Auntie, the emperor is now my father. Do you want me to be a widow at a young age and waste my whole life in the palace? You just can't see me like this." Kui Yuti felt guilty and short of breath after being accused. She shrank her neck and muttered, "Don't I hope you live well? If you marry into a small family, you still have to serve your parents-in-law, and there are a lot of things at home and outside. Marrying Hai may not necessarily make life easier, just look at your aunt." Although she hated Kui Yuing very much, she had to admit that she was jealous when Kui Yuing got married. Later, Kui Yuing's life became difficult, and she became so angry. "Okay. I have my own plan, don't hold me back." Cheng Jiaojiao looked at Kui Yuti warningly. Kui Yuti had to give in. The mother and daughter waited until evening before they could enter the palace. Such a long wait would make even the best of tempers a bit irritating, not to mention that neither of them had a good temper and had already cursed several times in the carriage. The two thought they were speaking quietly, but in fact all the carriages parked nearby heard them. Mrs. Tang finally waited until they entered the palace. As soon as she got off the carriage, she saw some ladies on the side pointing at them. She was very puzzled. She raised her head and looked at Mrs. Wang next to her. "What's wrong with us?" Mrs. Wang probably guessed some reasons, but she was about to enter the palace at this time and it was hard to cause trouble, so she glanced at Kui Yudi and Cheng Jiaojiao intentionally or unintentionally, and raised her voice with a smile. Tong Kui Yudi said, "Sister-in-law, you and your niece must follow closely. Remember to talk less and look less. Don't break the rules and lose the Cheng family's face." The ladies beside them seemed to have suddenly realized what they were doing, and they murmured to Kui Yudi and her daughter. Tang Shi suddenly had a bad premonition and tightened Wang Shi's hand, looking very worried. "My eldest daughter-in-law, will everything be okay?" Wang shook her head stiffly. "Mother, I've already warned them, so it shouldn't happen." Everyone said that she entered the palace so that Chen Hong could show his face, gain insights, and maybe even catch the eyes of some people. As aunt-in-law, it was hard for her to say too much, as it would easily arouse the dissatisfaction of her parents-in-law and husband. At this point, I hope they will not seek death, otherwise it will be useless even if the ancestors of the Kui family appear. Tang comforted herself in this way, but she became more and more panicked. She was about to let Kui Yudi and Cheng Jiaojiao go back, but it turned out that it was their turn. If she spoke out now, she was afraid that her daughter and granddaughter would hate them. Tang closed her eyes weakly, and the good mood she had before going out in the morning was instantly gone. Under the guidance of the palace officials, the officials and their female relatives were separated. This was the first time Kui Yudi entered the palace. Her appearance was similar to that of Grandma Lu entering the Grand View Garden. She was amazed at everything she saw, and her eyes were full of excitement and greed, attracting frequent glances from the women around. Tang couldn't bear it anymore and scolded in a low voice, "Have you never seen the world and learned the rules? What does this look like?" Cheng Jiaojiao also felt that her mother was very embarrassed, so she reminded her, "Mom, this is the palace, please stop making trouble." Kui Yudi was shameless and felt very ashamed and angry. However, this was the imperial palace and she didn't have the courage to make a fuss. At this moment, a young palace maid came over with a lantern and walked towards Tang and his party. "I have seen Mrs. Kui. May I ask if Mrs. Mingson is here?" Mrs. Mingson took a small step forward and said, "I am." They blessed her with blessings and said respectfully, "Third Madam, concubine Shu has invited you." "So anxious?" Mrs. Ming-san was stunned for a moment, then looked at Mrs. Tang and Mrs. Wang. "Mom, sister-in-law, I'll go first and come right away. You don't have to wait for me." Tang hesitated to speak, and finally nodded, looking worriedly at the eldest daughter who was leaving. Kui Yudi was so jealous that her face was distorted, and she muttered in a low voice, "What's so great, it's not just a shameful thing." "Auntie," Cheng Jiaojiao gave her a hard look. Fortunately, it was dark at the moment, so no one else paid close attention. Mrs. Ming-san followed the eunuchs and maids all the way to the quiet harem. The guards stationed on both sides of the corridor gave her an inexplicable feeling of peace of mind. Through the long corridor, around the imperial garden, and around a few more times, we finally arrived at Kuian Palace where concubine Shu was. The palace maid went in first to report. After a while, a nanny came out to salute Mrs. Ming-san and made a gesture of invitation. "Third Madam, concubine Shu is ill. Please come into the bedroom to speak." "Concubine Shu is sick? Why didn't you hear the news?" Mrs. Ming-san entered the room full of doubts. The furnishings in Kuian Palace are simple, with only some antique vases, calligraphy, and paintings. The curls of sandalwood cover up the strong aroma of medicine in the room. Intermittent coughing sounds come from the bed behind the screen, as if they want to cough up their lungs. It looks like the situation not good. Ms. Mingson's face turned a little pale. She walked to the screen with her head lowered and saluted, "I pay my respects to concubine Shu." After a long time, a feeble voice came from behind the screen, "Come in and talk." Ms. Mingson walked around the screen and finally saw the appearance of the woman on the bed. She was covered with a thick brocade quilt and a charcoal stove was lit beside her. Her face was bloodless and skinny, and her original appearance was no longer visible. "Shu Fei," Ms. Ming-san was shocked. Concubine Shu chuckled, half closed her eyelids, and said slowly, "I have no choice but to see you. Does it scare you?" "No, no." Ms. Mingson looked uneasy. Concubine Shu looked at the candlelight and asked quietly, "At this time, there should be singing and dancing in Changqing Hall. It must be very lively." With red eyes, Mammy advised with choked sobs, "My dear, please take good care of your health. Once you are well, you can go out." Concubine Shu smiled self-deprecatingly, "I know my own body well, I'm afraid I won't be able to survive the night." Ms. Ming-san was horrified. He raised his head suddenly and met Shu Fei's bottomless eyes. "You must be very curious why I am looking for you now. I don't have much time to talk in circles, so I will tell you clearly." Concubine Shu coughed a few more times and said slowly, "I left Zuzu when I was 13. The family followed the emperor, and although she was not favored in the palace, she abided by her duties and gave birth to a son for the emperor, so she was given the title Shufei. It's a pity that the emperor's son fell ill due to bad luck, and turned out to be an idiot with a mind of 7 or 8 years old. The world only knows that the eldest prince Ding is brave and good at fighting, the second prince is kind and filial, the fifth prince is knowledgeable and talented, the eighth prince is lively and cute, and the deposed sixth prince, but no one knows about my seventh prince Xiao Kongan. It would be great if I didn't have that illness." Ms. Ming-san had heard something about it and thought that the seventh prince was gone long ago. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be an idiot. No wonder the royal family never mentioned the seventh prince. It was only because of the emperor's order. Mammy couldn't help crying anymore. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 405. Chapter 405 Life and Death. Concubine Shu had a sad look on her face. It doesn't matter if he is a fool. After all, he is acting like this because he is ill. The emperor can't say anything. He just kept us mother and son in Kuian Palace these years and the seventh prince was not allowed to leave. Speaking of her son, Concubine Shu's eyes lit up a little. "Three madams don't know that my seventh prince is very good. He is stupid, innocent, and often makes surprising remarks. He is very childlike. I will take care of him." He was raised like a child, always thinking that it would be okay to protect him like this for the rest of his life. It's a pity that fate plays tricks on people. You have also seen what I am like now. I am not afraid of death, but what about my children? He has no scheming and no support. If this palace is gone, how will he survive? So I tried my best to plan for him. You are the daughter-in-law of your cousin, the daughter of the Kui family. The Kui family has a good reputation. I always have to worry about it, so I have also investigated everything about you in Tongchang Mansion. Ms. Mingson looked confused and didn't understand Concubine Shu's intention. Concubine Shu took a deep breath and said, "I have fought hard for the seventh prince's future tonight. I hope you don't blame me." "Mother, what have you done?" Ms. Mingson suddenly became panicked. Concubine Shu shed tears. I'm sorry. I only have one son in my life, he is my life." "Third madam, you taught your daughter well, really well. I believe she will treat me well." "Lao Chi, apart from a husband who has no shelter from wind and rain, I promise her all the glory and wealth. Shufei. Empress. Mrs. Mingson and Nanny shouted together. Concubine Shu's hands dropped weakly, her head tilted, and she became silent. Mrs. Mingson collapsed on the ground in a daze, unable to even cry, but her tears could not stop flowing out. The sound of silk and bamboo orchestral music from the Chengqing Hall in the distance could still be heard vaguely. Perhaps sensing that concubine Shu died of illness, the sound of dancing and music suddenly stopped, leaving only the sound of crying all around. In the side hall behind Chengqing Hall, Cheng Hong hugged the veiled Princess Wei tightly and scolded the man who was half a foot away from them, "You dare to molest a girl in the palace. You are a bastard. Girl, don't be afraid. I, Cheng Hong, will protect you." Cheng Jiao and all the ladies all changed their faces and looked at the strange man warily. Cheng Jiao looked at Cheng Hong with eyes that seemed puzzled and angry. How could this man be the third young master of Guanginhou? Cheng Hong doesn't care. Anyway, his purpose is to marry the princess, and other things will come later. Although Cheng Jiao was angry, she was still more happy than angry when she saw Princess Wei being hugged tightly by Cheng Hong. The lights in the side hall were dim, and Princess Wei was wearing a veil and was locked in Cheng Hong's arms. Others were not sure of her identity. The reason why she remained silent was because she wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to get through. Unexpectedly, Cheng Jiao stepped forward and pointed at her. She shouted in surprise, "Princess Wei. Her veil and jewelry are really easy to recognize, just take a closer look." Princess Wei's face darkened, she suppressed her anger and clenched her fists. The girl has recognized the wrong person. Cheng Hong then pretended to let go of the woman in his arms and knelt down. "Damn it, boy. I didn't know you were Princess Wei. I'm so offended. Please forgive me. I said I'm not Princess Wei, don't you understand?" Princess Wei's eyes were filled with anger. Just then, the Emperor and the Empress arrived with their ministers and wives, blocking Princess Wei's escape route. "What's going on?" The Emperor looked at the people in the side hall angrily. Cheng Hong took the initiative and pointed at another man in the room and said, "It's him. I just drank too much and walked out of Chengqing Hall to enjoy the breeze. I happened to see this man sneaking towards the back hall. There was a girl following him. I was afraid that something would happen, so I hurried over and happened to see this person having evil intentions towards this girl. I rushed in to stop the incident and asked the Emperor to investigate." "Princess Wei, is he telling the truth?" the Emperor asked unhurriedly. Princess Wei's eyes were fixed on Cheng Hong. The actual situation was that she mistook this man for Prince Ding and followed him into the side hall. Before she could do anything, Cheng Hong rushed out and hugged her tightly, shouting. She shouted and attracted a bunch of women over. It was clearly Cheng Hong who was plotting against her. But at the same time, Cheng Hong also covered up the truth about her following her. If she refuted it at this time, if Cheng Hong became angry and told the truth, adding fuel and jealousy to her, her reputation would be completely ruined, although the tribes outside the Guan are not like this. You are very particular, but if you do as the Romans do, these people in front of you will not care less. Thinking of this, Princess Wei reluctantly said, "Indeed." Lan Suivendong, one of the guards of the Wei tribe, knelt down before the Emperor on the spot and complained angrily, "Your Majesty, this man dares to have evil intentions towards our princess. Please chop off his head." The man was trembling with fear, with his head hanging down and holding a sepak takraw ball in his hand. When he heard this, he was so frightened that he cried loudly, feeling very helpless. There's something wrong with his appearance. The queen waved to him distressedly, "Old Chi, be good, come to the queen mother's side." The seventh prince looked at the people in front of him with fear. When he saw that only the queen looked at him lovingly and protected him, he carefully hugged the sepak takraw ball and shrank behind the queen. Everyone's expressions changed. The queen looked at Cheng Hong with dissatisfaction. You said that Lao Chi followed Princess Wei with evil intentions. But my Lao Chi is only 7 years old and doesn't understand the affairs of men and women. How can he have evil intentions with Princess Wei? Cheng Hong was so horrified that he broke out in a cold sweat. He looked at Cheng Jiaojiao for help. Cheng Jiaojiao's face was paler than his own, and she secretly glanced at King Ding, the people from the Guang'an marquee, and the 7th prince hiding behind the queen in the crowd. They were dressed exactly the same tonight, as if they were one person. Why is this happening? Coincidence still. Cheng Jiaojiao's mind was in a mess. Everyone in the Kui family was scared to death. Kui Yudi, who was usually arrogant, was as silent as a quail. Princess Longjio stood up, gave her a blessing, and said, "Longjio pays homage to the emperor, the queen." Just when young Master Cheng shouted, Longjio was also under the eaves of the corridor with several other ladies. She was the first to follow Miss Cheng. Longjio didn't see the 7th prince doing anything when he entered the door. He only saw Mr. Cheng and Princess Wei hugging each other tightly. The 7th prince just held a takraw ball. The queen's face brightened slightly. She turned around and asked gently, "Old Chi, are you here just for this ball?" The 7th prince had tears in his eyes and nodded heavily, his voice trembling as he spoke, "My mother made it for me with her own hands. I was playing with Sister Xiahua, and Sister Xiahua accidentally let the ball roll out. She went out to pick it up, but I couldn't find her. Come on, Queen Mother, have you seen Sister Xiahua?" The queen comforted her softly, "Don't worry, as long as you are in the palace, you won't be afraid of losing it. My mother will help you find it later." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fensti. Chapter 406. Chapter 406, Being clever turns out to be a mistake. "Mother, you are so kind," the 7th prince smiled, and his tense body relaxed a little. Everyone saw that his eyes were clear and innocent, and he spoke like a child. Their anger towards him turned into pity, and all their questioning eyes fell on Cheng Hong. Except for the 7th prince, all the people present were human beings. With a little thought, they knew there was something fishy about this matter, especially since Princess Wei echoed Cheng Hong's words. Could it be that these two people have been together for a long time? The emperor was very angry, and looked at the people of the Wei tribe coldly. "I will thoroughly investigate what happened today. If it is true that the 7th prince has evil intentions towards Princess Wei, I will never tolerate it, but, if this matter is related to the 7th prince, it has nothing to do with the prince, no matter who he is, I will punish him severely." Emperor Qi. "That's wrong. It's obviously our princess who is in trouble. Why don't you make the decision for our princess? Could it be that our princess would have any evil thoughts towards a mentally retarded man?" Lan Sui Venhan was very angry. Both eyes are spitting fire. The emperor sneered and gave Princess Wei a meaningful look. "I don't know what Princess Wei is thinking, but since you want to avenge Princess Wei, I naturally want to investigate this matter clearly." "Wei. Princess Yat, what are you doing here? This place is really remote, and it is not a place in the palace reserved for guests to rest and sober up. It is dark all around, and there is not even a palace official to greet them. It is far-fetched to say that it is far-fetched to rest here. I saw a person sneaking here, so I followed him." Princess Wei clenched her fists. At this point, she could only tell the truth. Anyway, as long as she didn't say who the person was, there wouldn't be many others. "Think. There are still people," everyone whispered. Cheng Jiaojiao thought of her layout. At that time, she clearly saw the third son of the Marquis of Guang'an leaving the Chengqing Palace and going to the back hall. How could he stay out of it? She immediately gritted her teeth, stepped forward and knelt down. "Your Majesty," the little girl remembered it. At that time, the little girl seemed to have seen the young master coming here. Because she had seen him at her grandfather's house, the little girl had some impressions. Hearing this, Kui Guang's eyes widened with anger, and the rest of the Kui family looked at Cheng Jiaojiao in disbelief. Tang suppressed her anger and reminded in a low voice, "Jiaojiao, don't talk nonsense." Cheng Jiaojiao gritted her teeth and raised her pitiful little face. "Grandma, I really saw it, why don't you believe me?" Tang closed her eyes in despair and stopped looking at Cheng Jiaojiao. The emperor's eyes fell on Yang Santi. "What's going on?" Yang Santi immediately stepped forward, bowed and saluted, his eyes full of innocence. Yang Changsong paid homage to the emperor. Changsong went to the palace with his mother for a banquet today. He never thought that he would meet Sister Xiahua at the palace banquet. Changsong just didn't understand why Sister Xiahua in the palace. Changsong met Xiahua's father before coming to Beijing and wanted to convey a few words to his father. "I happened to see her going out to pick up a ball, so I followed her out to ask her a few words. Unexpectedly, there was no sign of Sister Xiahua when she went out, so she could only try to look for her nearby. Unfortunately, before Changsong could find anyone, he heard some noise coming from here and turned back." This explanation is exactly in line with what the seventh prince said. The seventh prince was not mentally sound and could not lie. However, they did not see Yang Changsong when they came over. The other party was frank and unafraid, and they knew what he was telling the truth. Cheng Jiaojiao's face was livid, and she still refused to let Yang Changsong go at this time. Instead, she questioned, "This young master keeps talking about little sister Xiahua, and I don't know whether it is true or not." Cheng Jiaojiao, Tang couldn't bear it anymore and wanted to step forward and slap Cheng Jiaojiao hard. Due to the presence of the emperor and empress, she didn't dare to act rashly, so she knelt down and admitted her mistake. "Your Majesty, the empress, Jiaojiao has never seen much of the world, I don't know how to be sensible. I will be a good housekeeper when I go back." The emperor snorted, "I haven't seen half of the generosity, courtesy, gentleness, and virtuousness that a woman should have. She should be well disciplined by the Cheng family and respect the virtues of a nun. Come here, tell me, Cheng Dongjiang has no way to educate his daughter. He will be fined for 1 year and reduced to half a grade." Tang's face was as white as a sheet of fright, and she responded in panic. Kui Yudi stayed there in disbelief, dripping with cold sweat, and didn't even react. Wang quickly helped Tang up, and found that her hands were trembling, and she became frightened. Cheng Jiaojiao couldn't believe what she heard. What she said was obviously true, so why did the emperor teach her a lesson and punish her father? Unfair. She wanted to say something more, but seeing Kui Guang looking at her seriously, she could only hold back and remain silent. At this moment, Yang Xiahua came in from outside, walking in a hurry, and knelt down. "Public girl Yang Xiahua pays homage to the emperor, the queen." The queen frowned and asked, "Xiahua, where did you go just now?" Sister Xiahua, play ball." The seventh prince was happy again. Yang Xiahua couldn't help but turned her head and wiped her tears, but stopped talking. The queen turned a little pale, and hurriedly coaxed her nanny to take the seventh prince out, and then asked, "But where is sister concubine Shu?" With tears in her eyes, Yang Xiahua nodded heavily, her voice choked with sobs. "The folk girl came out to pick up the ball." The maid next to concubine Shu came looking for her anxiously. Today's palace banquet, the folk girl didn't dare to say anything for fear of disturbing everyone's enjoyment, so she leave through the back door and rushed to Kuian Palace, but it's still too late. "Your Majesty," the queen looked sad and wiped away the tears from the corner of her eyes with a handkerchief. "If Sister Shufei leaves like this, what should I do if I am left with the seventh child?" The queen said, knelt down to the emperor on the spot, and said sadly, "Your Majesty, my sister Shufei had a very good relationship with me. Not long ago, I went to visit her. She kept holding my hand, hoping that I would take my place on her behalf to take care of Lao Chi. I happen to have no children. Please ask your majesty to adopt the seventh prince in my name. From now on, I will take care of Lao Chi instead of concubine Shu. The Emperor Su thought of some of his past with concubine Shu, and because she had passed away, his face became a little sad. He breathed a long sigh of relief and nodded slowly, I will do it according to the queen's wishes. After saying that, the emperor opened his eyes again, and his gaze fell sharply on Cheng Jiaoqiao, Princess Wei of Chenghong. After a long time, he slowly said, it is an indisputable fact that Princess Wei and Chenghong had a private meeting in the side hall, and many people saw it. The two of you are in a group, which is detrimental to Princess Wei's reputation. How does the princess think it should be dealt with? The emperor's words directly sealed the relationship between the two. Even Princess Wei's rebuttal now is in vain. Princess Wei was very angry. Lan Sui Wendong and Lan Sui Venhan were very angry. They pointed at Chenghong and wanted to kill him. Chenghong was trembling with fear and yelled for help, I just wanted to protect the princess, but I lost control in my desperation. You can't be so unreasonable. Bah! Who wants the protection of a like you? You don't even urinate to show what you look like, Lan Sui Vendong scolded angrily. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 407. Chapter 407 The Queen's Promise. Prime Minister's son, who was very discerning, stepped forward and suggested, Your Majesty, the matter has come to this point, and it is useless to talk about it. For the sake of Princess Wei's reputation, the best way is to grant a marriage to Princess Wei and Chenghong. Dream. Impossible. Several people from the Wei tribe opposed it in unison, and their emotions were very intense. Prime Minister's son chuckled calmly, it doesn't matter if the princess doesn't want to. The emperor can punish Chenghong for molesting the princess, but the princess's reputation has been completely ruined. How to get married? Or the Wei tribe will send other princesses to the front. Come. How dare you? Old man, how dare you humiliate our princess? Lan Sui Vendong pointed at Prime Minister's son. Prime Minister's son looked innocent, Master Lan Sui, you are wronged. Qi state attaches great importance to a woman's reputation, and you all know this. Something like this happened tonight. Go out and ask, who dares to marry Princess Wei? Our emperor, sincerely, you should be sincere in your friendship with the Wei tribe and not send an innocent princess to humiliate us. You, Lan Sui Vendong was so angry that he stamped his feet and even wanted to kill all the witnesses. However, there were all noble ladies present, and there was no one he could touch. And they were ordered to come here to make peace. If they went back in such a disgrace, they would probably be dealt with before they even returned to the tribe. The ministers of the Wei tribe looked ugly, very ugly, but they really had no choice, so they left in anger. Princess Wei glanced at Chenghong with a sinister look and followed suit. Prime Minister's son was very dissatisfied, Your Majesty, the Wei tribe is too unruly. Princess Wei has done such a scandal, and she still behaves like a normal person. We must not allow such a person to enter the royal family. The Prime Minister is right, Brother Emperor, we can't have this kind of woman. King Xiaoao rarely expressed his stance seriously. Several royal family members also echoed at this time. The emperor's face looked much better. In this case, I will marry Princess Wei and Chenghong. I think the leader of the Wei tribe will agree if he knows the truth. After saying this, the queen gave her a blessing and said, Your Majesty, I am going to Kuyan Palace to see my sister Shu concubine on her last journey. After the emperor left, other people also left the side hall one after another. They were all talking about concubine Shu and the seventh prince, and speculating about the secret affair between Chenghong and Princess Wei. Tang syndrome collapsed to the ground. Wang and several children hurriedly supported her. Tang finally couldn't hold on, fainted and was carried out of the palace. In Kuian Palace. The palace servants have hung all the things in the palace on plain silk. The queen brought people over and saw Mrs. Mingson sitting in a side hall in a state of despair. She raised her feet and slowly entered the side hall. The queen is here. Mrs. Mingson's numb eyes finally rolled twice, and she stood up in a daze and saluted, "I pay my respects to the queen." The queen gave her a hand and looked at the woman in front of her sympathetically. "Concubine Shu must have told you her plan. I owe her a favor. She wants everything she wants from the seventh prince. I really can't refuse." Mrs. Mingson covered her face and cried bitterly, "Then I have to sacrifice my daughter? She has not been loved by her father and grandmother since she was a child. She and I have been dependent on each other. I don't ask for anything else. I just hope that she can live a smooth and peaceful life in the future." She was almost able to get engaged to the third son of Guang Inho. If I didn't have so many worries, wouldn't she have to marry the seventh prince? Seeing that Mrs. Ming was a little confused, the queen lowered her eyes and said, "Mrs. Ming is a smart person and should know that there are no ifs in this world. It is true that this palace and concubine Shu owe you mother and daughter, so I have decided to transfer the seventh prince to the throne. He is recorded in his name, so he can be regarded as half a legitimate son. I will also ask for the throne for him and leave the palace to open a palace. From now on, your daughter will be the princess, and she has the final say in the whole palace. Moreover, the seventh child only became an idiot because of his illness at a young age. It is not a congenital disease, so it will not affect the heirs. As long as your daughter enters the palace and has children, she will still have children. What's there to worry about? To be deviant, I am not her serious mother-in-law, and I will not set rules for her. As a royal princess, the seventh prince will not pose a threat to others, and no one will play tricks on her. Woman, wouldn't it be nice to live in peace, stability, and leisure all your life as a wealthy and idle person?" Although Mrs. Mingson was filled with despair, she still listened silently. She was a smart person and could find a way out of desperate situations. She was certainly not a weak person. After the queen finished speaking, she also made a decision in her heart. "Queen, can I meet the seventh prince?" The queen thought for a while and nodded in agreement. The maid went out and led Yang Xiahua and the seventh prince inside. The two of them bowed politely to the queen. The seventh prince complained aggrievedly to the queen, "Mother, why did they stop the children from going in to see the mother and concubine?" As he spoke, he was still holding on to the sepak takraw ball in his hand. The queen's eyes instantly turned red, and she touched the seventh prince's head comfortingly. "Seventh prince, my dear, your concubine is sick. She is very ill. She has to go far away to find a doctor. Isn't it true that I can't see my mother and concubine there?" The seventh prince almost cried, "Mother, can I go with my concubine? My son is very well behaved and will not disturb my mother and concubine's treatment." The queen burst into tears, hugged the seventh prince and patiently coaxed, "No, if you follow, your mother and concubine will be even more worried. From now on, the queen will take care of you, go and play." The seventh prince seemed to understand, but he didn't make any more trouble. He stood up from the queen's side and nodded obediently to Mrs. Mingson, who was staring at him before leaving. Yang Xiahua bowed and left. The queen looked at Mrs. Mingsan. "You have also seen that Lao Qi is simple-minded and not stupid as others think. Moreover, he is handsome and has been taken care of by concubine Shu very well over the years. If it hadn't been for that illness, Qi would have been the choice of the princess. Will not fall on your daughter, do you understand?" Mrs. Mingson slowly closed her eyes and nodded heavily. Outside Kui Mansion. The carriage came rushing over and stopped urgently. The housekeeper who had received the news in advance led people to come out to help. Everyone hurriedly carried Tang back to the main courtyard. The imperial doctor who was close to Kui Guang also came and gave Tang's acupuncture and prescribed medicine. He worked hard until dawn before leaving. The whole Kui family is gloomy and gloomy. Tang's family suddenly woke up. Wang and Kui Boyuan, who had stayed up all night, hurried forward and asked someone to notify Kui Guang. When Mrs. Tang saw them, her tears immediately rolled down her face. Mrs. Wang thought that Mrs. Tang was going to ask her sister-in-law and her family, and had already thought of how to answer. Unexpectedly, Mrs. Tang's first question was to ask her sister-in-law. "Where's Yueying? Yesterday she was called away by concubine Shu when she entered the palace. As a result, concubine Shu passed away. Where is she? Has she come back?" Mrs. Tang looked anxious. Kui Guang hurriedly reassured her, "Don't think too much. Concubine Shu has been ill for a long time. Maybe she has something to explain before she comes to Ying'er. She'll be fine." Having said that, he was also worried, but he just didn't dare to show it. Lan Sui Wendong. Lan Sui Venhan. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 408. Chapter 408, Rebellion and Separation. Tang didn't know what was going on, so she held Kui Guang's hand and kept shaking her head. "No, what kind of illness does concubine Shu have? Is it so serious? There hasn't been any news yet. I always feel that what happened tonight is unusual. There must be something hidden. You do not lie to me." Kui Guang was helpless. He sat by the bed, patted his old wife's hand, and comforted him. "Concubine Shu is really ill. She has been for several months. Otherwise, Miss Yang, who was mentioned repeatedly by the seventh prince today, would also be sick, not in the palace. The little girl was brought to Beijing by Guang Inho. Her medical skills are very good. She was the one who cured the amnesia of the adopted son of Prince Rui. She also took care of Princess Ding's body. Otherwise, how could Princess Ding give birth so smoothly? Outsiders don't know much about these things, but I am Tai Shiling and have personally approved it for Prince Wang, so I naturally know more." Tang finally felt a little relieved, but she began to wipe her tears again, complaining, "Since you know that concubine Shu is ill, why don't you remind Ying'er?" Kui Guang smiled bitterly, "I know that concubine Shu is sick, but how do I know how serious the condition is? Our family has nothing to do with concubine Shu, so is it possible that a foreigner like me wants to inquire about the concubine's condition? That's ridiculous. Besides, even if I tell Ying'er about this, can Ying'er push concubine Shu to summon her?" "No, Tang," she cried miserably again, "why is my Ying'er so miserable? Good things cannot happen to her, but all bad things happen to her." "Madam, be careful what you say." Kui Guang was a little worried. Wang bumped into Kui Boyuan with a small movement. Kui Boyuan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, stepped forward and whispered, "Father, there is also the matter of the little sister and Cheng Hong and Cheng Jiao. I only think that they have realized their mistakes during this time. Who didn't expect that Jiao was holding back a lot of bad things, and she grabbed Yang Chang Song for no reason tonight, which showed that she had always been resentful of the beating that day. They have completely annoyed the emperor and queen tonight, and they have also offended the Guang'an Marquis and the Wei tribe. What should we do?" "Yes. Father, Mother, if this matter is not handled well, the Kui family will be implicated by them." Mrs. Wang bit her lip in anger and scolded Kui Yudi, mother and son, again in her heart. This was the last thing Ms. Tang wanted to face. She tilted her head on the bed and cried silently. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion outside. Before anyone could speak, Kui Yudi rushed in disheveled. "Father, Mother, you have to make the decision for me. Cheng Dongjiang is not a human being, he actually said divorce me." "What?" Mrs. Tang stood up excitedly and glared at Kui Yudi fiercely. "He relied on our Kui family to make a successful career, and now he wants to divorce our Kui family daughter. What a dream. Tang's family is not fighting for her daughter, but once Kui Yudi is divorced, it will affect other unmarried girls in the Kui family. Kui Yudi seemed to have grasped a life-saving straw and burst into tears, which made everyone upset. Wang asked dissatisfiedly, "Why do you want me to divorce you?" Kui Yudi muttered, "It's not because he was demoted by the emperor, and because the emperor scolded the Cheng family for being a goddaughter, he said it was all my fault. It was me who harmed the Cheng family." He even asked Hong Er and Jiao Jiao. "No, I know that his thoughts are all about that little goblin in Z1, and he wishes that we, mother and son, would make way for them, woo woo woo." "That's enough," Mrs. Wang roared angrily. "Cheng Dongjiang is indeed nothing, but what he said is right. If he hadn't indulged Cheng Hong and Cheng Jiao into being lawless and ignorant, they wouldn't have done this in the palace. Those scandals not only bring shame to the Cheng family, but also bring trouble to our Kui family." "Sister-in-law. What are you talking about? What happened last night has nothing to do with Hong or Xiao Xiao. How can you accuse them like those outsiders who don't know what's going on?" Kui Yudi argued with Wang with a stiff neck. Wang was so angry that she slapped her hard. Kui Yudi covered her face in disbelief and screamed, "Even you dare to hit me?" "Ah!" Kui Boy Wan stepped forward and pushed Kui Yudi. "That's enough. If you make trouble again, get out of Kui's house." Kui Yudi looked at Kui Boy Wan's fiery eyes and finally realized that she was afraid, but she said harshly, "Am I wrong? What did Hong or Xiao Xiao do? Why do you say that to them? Do I need to tell you what they did? Have all the 4 books and 5 classics taught men and women how to protect themselves? Cheng Hong said he saw the girl being followed. Why didn't he call someone? The many guards outside Chengqing Palace were just decorations. Why does he think he can be a hero and save the beauty? Why does he think he can do whatever he wants in the palace?" As soon as he called, Cheng Jiao immediately rushed over with a group of people. There was still a distance between the main hall and the backyard side hall. It was a coincidence that Cheng Jiao went there. Facing the emperor's question, they couldn't answer the question, so they dragged the Guang'an Marquis into it. Young Master Yang was open and honest, but Cheng Jiao was unreasonable and stubborn like a mad dog. "Why? Do you think everyone is stupid? I tell you. Cleverness is mistaken for cleverness. Your children, who think they are clever but are actually extremely stupid, have ruined your future and that of the Cheng family. If I were Cheng Dongjiang, I would also divorce my wife." Kui Boy Wan has always been a gentleman, gentle and elegant. This is the first time he has lost his temper and roared like this. Not to mention Kui Yudi, even Kui Guang was shocked. Kui Yudi was speechless and wanted to sit on the ground and act like before. Anyway, she had always been like this. As long as she ignored the trouble, she would not fail to achieve her goal. Kui Boy Wan saw her intention, took a deep breath, and suppressed his anger. The emperor's golden words, Cheng Dongjiang was demoted, Cheng Jiao was uneducated, Cheng Hong married Princess Wei, these are a foregone conclusion, there is no room for change. Of course, you don't have to worry about Cheng Dongjiang divorcing his wife. After all, your precious son is going to marry Princess Wei. No matter how unhappy the emperor is, he will not let Princess Wei have a divorced mother-in-law. So, what else do you have to worry about? Kui Yudi was stunned. She was too anxious and didn't think much about it. But now she was calmed down by Kui Boy Wan's words. She stood up, patted her clothes and left. "Stop," Kui Boy Wan shouted sharply. Kui Yudi turned around dissatisfied. "What are you doing? If you don't want to see me, why don't I go back?" Ms. Wang stepped forward with a cold face and asked, "Sister-in-law, my mother is so angry with you. You haven't said a word of greeting since you entered the house until now." Kui Yudi's eyes fell on Tang's body across the crowd, as if she had just discovered that Tang's illness was just now. Her face was a little embarrassed and angry, and she muttered, "I didn't know that my mother was sick." "You're still making excuses. My mother fainted in front of you. You didn't even help me." Wang was furious. "Mom, it's okay, there are so many people, and I'm not the only one missing." Kui Yudi didn't think she was at fault. Tang's heart was completely chilled, and she waved her hand. "That's enough. From today on, I will just pretend that I don't have a daughter like you, and I will never visit the Kui family again." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 409. Chapter 409, Splendid Order. "Mother? You disown me?" Kui Yudi asked accusingly, her eyes widening in disbelief. Tang said coldly, "My Kui family doesn't have a daughter as shameful and unfilial as you, so get out." "What your mother means is what I mean too," Kui Guang said, slowly getting up and walking to Kui Yudi. "From now on, I don't have a daughter like you. Don't come in again. Our Kui family can't afford it." Kui Yudi came back to her senses and shouted sharply, "Why? If you gave birth to me and raised me, you will take care of me for the rest of my life. Why don't you recognize me? Why? Just because you will make us angry to death. Kui Yudi. If you know me, don't come again. Otherwise, I don't mind writing a divorce letter in person and handing it to the government office, and we will officially break away from the father-daughter relationship with you," Kui Guang shouted loudly. According to the rules of Qi state, as long as the divorce document is formally written, the reasons are stated, the official seal is filed, and the family tree is deleted, the relationship is truly severed, and the 9 clans are not involved. Kui Yudi never expected that Kui Guang would be so heartless. Not only did she gain nothing when she came back to cause trouble, but she was also threatened by her mother-in-law not to visit her again. Without her mother-in-law's support, how could she survive in her husband's family? "Father, you are forcing me to death," Kui Yudi shouted at the top of her lungs, with veins popping out on her neck. Kui Guang really could no longer feel any compassion. "You can think whatever you want, if you can't stand it anymore, just die, and everyone will be in peace." Kui Yudi's heart felt cold and cold. How could she have the courage to die? She was just threatening her parents. Now it seemed that they were really cold-blooded and did not care about her life or death. She simply sat down on the ground and cried bitterly. Wang shouted loudly, "Housekeeper, send Mrs. Cheng out." The housekeeper had followed Kui Guang all his life and had watched Kui Yudi grow up with his own eyes. He was no less disappointed with her than Kui Guang and Tang. He immediately brought some strong women over and persuaded her in a good voice, "Mrs. Cheng, leave yourself some dignity and let's go." Kui Yudi looked at the women and finally gave up. She got up from the ground and stamped her feet angrily, "Don't regret it." As she said that, she pushed away a few women and rushed out regardless. Today is the first day of the Lunar New Year. It is freezing and snowy outside. The cold wind is blowing snowflakes from all directions. There is not even a soul on the street. Kui Yudi ran out of the house. No one saw her embarrassment. Just as she was about to get on the carriage, she seeing another carriage parked nearby. Mrs. Mingson walked down with messy hair and pale face. When Kui Yudi saw her, she immediately scolded her harshly, "You are already half a widow and you are still so unruly." The official family members who attended the banquet last night had already left the palace, and concubine Shu had died a long time ago. Mrs. Mingson, who was called into the palace by concubine Shu, came back like this at this time. She must have gone to some shady place to meet a wild man. Mrs. Mingson didn't even look at her, and went straight up the steps. Kui Yudi was instantly ignited. He stepped forward and grabbed her. "Bitch! How dare you answer my questions? Mrs. Mingsen's bottomless eyes stared straight at Kui Yudi, who was looking for trouble. She suddenly reached out and strangled her neck tightly, and laughed ferociously. Go to hell. Help! Kui Yudi was pinched so much that her whole face turned red, her eyes widened as if they were about to come out of their sockets, her eyes were full of panic, and she struggled desperately. The housekeeper was so frightened that he went crazy. Fortunately, he came out with several strong women to see Kui Yudi off. He quickly sent someone over to rescue Kui Yudi. He lowered his voice and ordered, "Quick! Help my aunt in." As he spoke, he stepped forward to persuade Kui Yudi, "Mrs. Chang, please stop causing trouble. I saw it really just now, my aunt is really murderous towards you. She's crazy, housekeeper, she's crazy." Kui Yudi was so frightened that she climbed onto her carriage. She kept covering her neck and calmed down. Thinking of Kui Yuing's abnormality, she was obviously shocked. She was happy and said sullenly, "Bitch! I'm driving you crazy. I must know what happened." The housekeeper asked Mrs. Ming-san to be taken to the main courtyard. On the way, she also mentioned Tang's fainting. Mrs. Ming-san was worried. At that moment, she even forgot about her worries and hurriedly walked in and called, "Mother." Tang's eyes lit up when she heard her voice, "Ying-er. Ying-er. You're finally back." Mrs. Ming-san sat on the edge of the bed, holding Tang's hand tightly, tears falling down her face. "Mother." Seeing her like this, Tang's heart suddenly sank. What happened? Kui Guang and Kui Boyuan are also worried. Wang asked anxiously, "Sister-in-law, concubine Shu passed away last night. Did she not harm you?" Mrs. Mingsen shook her head, "It has nothing to do with me." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but then they heard the third lady Ming sobbing. Concubine Shu knew that her time was running out, and she didn't know what kind of deal she had made with the queen. She actually asked the queen to agree to adopt the seventh prince. "In my name, I also want my Jinxiu to marry the seventh prince as his concubine." What? Everyone in the Kui family was shocked. Tang Shi was so anxious that she looked at Kui Guang subconsciously, with a look of resentment on her face. "Sir, didn't you approve the horoscope for Jinxiu before? It's not accurate at all." "What horoscopes?" Mrs. Mingsen's sobs were a little softer, and she looked up at Mrs. Tang and Kui Guang. Mrs. Tang sighed and explained, "You married into the Ming family many years ago and gave birth to such a precious daughter. Your father and I naturally attach great importance to it. At that time, we, the old couple, could not leave the capital, so I asked my wet nurse to make a trip for me. The wet nurse went there happily, but came back full of sorrow. In addition to talking about the situation of your mother and daughter, she also mentioned my eldest son-in-law and Shunda. I was so worried that I couldn't sleep all night long. I was very scared. When your father saw me like this, he asked the wet nurse to go over and question her carefully. She found out the child's birthday and name, and gave her instructions. She also said, Jinxiu Jinxiu, the future is bright and prosperous. In the future, he will have a prosperous husband and a noble wife, with a family full of children and grandchildren, and endless blessings. He also said that he has not seen such a good horoscope as Jinxiu in a long time. Now it seems that they were all fooled by me." Tang was so angry that he glared at Kui Guang with scarlet eyes. The seventh prince was a mentally retarded fool. His granddaughter would only be in trouble when she married him and became the seventh prince's concubine. She would be ridiculed and ridiculed. How could she have a bright future, a prosperous husband and a noble wife? It's all a lie. Kui Guang was very innocent and stamped his feet anxiously. "Madam, I have even approved the queen's life, and I have never made any mistakes. Jinxiu is our granddaughter, so it is even more impossible for me to give her the wrong life. Giving orders is very particular." He gave orders to the queen, concubines, and princesses in the palace, and the results were all very noble. However, there are still differences among the nobility. For example, the queen, the horoscope is more grand, and the main wife is the concubine. The concubine's horoscope is more coquettish. Although she is very good, she still has flaws in some aspects, but the flaws cannot be concealed. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 410. Chapter 410 Analysis. There are some half-full fortune tellers out there. Even if they can calculate whether a person is rich or not, they cannot figure out why they are rich. They are prone to exaggerate and change the original fate of the person. So he usually would not give instructions to people. Even if he did give instructions, he would only say what he could say, or say it in a cryptic way, for fear of ruining the client's future. Ms. Mingson does know her father's abilities. If her daughter really has such an order, can she still expect it? Thinking of this, Ms. Mingson immediately shed her tears and became more energetic. Tang Shi was startled and quickly comforted her. "Girl, your father probably made a mistake in his calculation. Don't believe his lies." She was afraid that her daughter would regard this order as her only life-saving straw. If her granddaughter's life was not satisfactory in the future, her family would not be able to explain to her daughter. Ms. Mingson wiped away her tears and showed a pale smile. "Mom, I know it in my heart. Since my father gave Jinxiu an order back then, I think so, maybe this marriage is not as bad as I thought." Wang sighed at the side, "But the seventh prince is like that. Even if the other princes do not become kings through their own strength like Prince Ding, they can wait until the emperor dies and the new emperor ascends the throne to become kings and open a palace. However, the seventh prince is clearly the laughing stock of the royal family. Now the emperor does not like to see him and does not talk to anyone. As I mentioned before, how could the new emperor be kind to me in the future?" The queen said she wanted to apply for a title for the seventh prince. As soon as Madame Ming-san finished speaking, everyone looked at her in astonishment. Tang Shi looked at Kui Guang and Kui Boyuan anxiously. What on earth did concubine Shu do? How could the empress do this for her? It was both an adoption and a request for a title. Could it be possible that concubine Shu saved the queen's life? Kui Boyuan thought about what happened last night, and an idea flashed in his mind. He covered his mouth in surprise. Could it be related to Princess Yan Jiang's marriage? Kui Guang nodded approvingly and muttered, 9 times out of 10, this is the reason. After what happened in the Changqing Palace last night, the emperor and the queen were the final winners. The only loss was that the seventh prince was exposed to others, but the seventh prince is young. Yet, even if it is really unsatisfactory, he is the emperor's biological son, and the emperor has to plan for this son. Everyone here is smart. If you think about it calmly, there is nothing you don't understand. Tang scolded angrily. Why did those two little suddenly change their sexual orientation? They only wanted to enter the palace to make me happy. If they achieve their goal, they don't care whether I, an old woman, live or die. Now they are like this, that's right. Tang's mind calmed down a lot after he thought about all the twists and turns. The Kui family is confused by the authorities and has only now figured out the clues. Others have seen the clues long ago, but they just didn't dare to say anything. Inside the inn, Princess Wei kept smashing things since she came back and got angry all night long. Everyone waiting in the courtyard was injured. Lan Suivendong and others stood outside the courtyard. Hearing the unbearable abuse inside, he frowned subconsciously. The princess hasn't finished venting yet. The maid covered her face and shook her head pitifully. The princess kept shouting for the king to make the decision for her, and also said that she would chop off Cheng Hong's head. If she doesn't marry the king, she didn't dare to respond, so the princess threw the whip in the slave's face. Lan Suivenhan's expression suddenly changed. Brother, the princess is so shameless. She obviously did everything herself. how can she take someone else to vent her anger? There are too few people in the Wei tribe, especially girls. In order to reproduce, they will cherish the women of the tribe. Even if they are serving people, they will not shout and kill for no reason, not to mention that there is a reason for everything, and this maid is innocent. Lan Suivendong's face turned pale. He took a deep breath and walked into the yard with his hands behind his back and his feet raised. Princess, you have been angry all night. Can you calm down and talk properly? Lan Suivendong asked Princess Wei for her opinion in a gentle tone, but his attitude was very tough. Princess Wei glared at him angrily and sat down angrily, but she did not continue to go crazy. The servant ran out quickly and closed the door behind him. Lan Suivendong immediately changed his face and reprimanded, Princess, you are really useless. A great opportunity is in front of you. As long as you keep your integrity, even if Emperor Qi really doesn't want you to marry Prince Ding, there is nothing you can do. If you delay, he will definitely compromise. In the end, he dug his own grave, ruining our hard work and his own future. You still have the nerve to accuse me? Princess Wei stood up, gasping angrily, her chest heaving violently. I asked you to bring down Beiwei Tower. You have been struggling for so long, but you are still unscathed and supporting Hung Fengjai. As a result, business didn't see much growth, and was even worse than before. I want to marry King Ding, and you have repeatedly promised that I can make it happen. But what happens now? The marriage has not been settled for a long time, and this princess has become a joke in the entire capital. You guys are incompetent, why can't I make plans for myself? Lan Suivenhan argued angrily, we are already working hard. Don't talk about useless things, just talk about last night. Why did you go to that ghost place when you were fine? They didn't believe a word Cheng Hong said. Princess Wei sat down depressedly, her aura weakened by 3 points. I saw Prince Ding and Yang Santi going over there together. They are just mud-legged people. Why are they so close to Prince Ding? I was just angry at the time, and I lost sight of them when I chased them away. As a result, that Cheng Jiao chased me away, excitedly saying that Wang Ding was over there, and she was going to block them. He was the man I liked. How dare she, the daughter of a small official, even think about it? So you were stupid and followed me? Are you a pig? Can you jump into such a simple trap? Lan Suivenhan laughed angrily. Princess Wei was so ashamed and angry that she clenched her fists tightly. Their brother and sister's father is just a 6th-rank official. Even with the power of the Kui family, he would not dare to plot against me like this. There must be someone behind it. Lan Suivendong denied this view with a gloomy look. Those brothers and sisters have no bones, and have extremely poor etiquette. They made such a fuss on that occasion, and they are not smart people at first glance. If someone really wants to plot against you, they will never use this method. Kind of stuff. What did you say? Princess Wei was so angry that she went crazy. She would rather believe that those 2 reckless people were used against her than believe that she fell into the hands of these 2 inconspicuous villains. Lan Suivendong shook his head in disappointment. Now that the matter has come to this, for the sake of the Wei tribe and your own reputation, you have no choice but to marry Cheng Hong, but that kind of thing is not worthy of our Suanwea cauldron as a dowry. Lan Suivenhan sighed, brother, if I had known that we would have agreed to Princess Yan Jiang's marriage, at least we would not be unable to explain to the king. The 2 brothers were talking to themselves and ignored the berserk Princess Wei.